Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Scott Verhoeven, and I work as the Executive Director of the Business and Education Partnership of Waterloo Region. We're a charity that brings together local educators, employers, parents, and other partners to help young people explore careers and make informed decisions about their future. We're here tonight to learn about careers in trades, and I want to begin by acknowledging that we're broadcasting from the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We honor and respect the First Peoples of Canada and strive to learn from their example. I also want to thank our sponsors that have made this series possible, including Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada, the Region of Waterloo, the Workforce Planning Board of Waterloo, Wellington, Dufferin, and the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Programs of the Waterloo Region and Waterloo Catholic District School Boards. The goal of our Explore Your Future series is to help young people in our region and their families better understand their career opportunities and ways that they can continue exploring and learning. So tonight's session features 4 people with careers in the skilled trades. They're going to be sharing with you what they do and how they got there, and then they're going to be answering your questions. Just so you know, in case you're wondering, for your privacy, your video and audio will remain off, but you can type your questions into the Q&A function here in Zoom. So feel free really at any point that you think of a question, feel free to type it in, and when the time comes, we'll start bringing those to our audience here. I should mention we also have on hand a few additional folks in addition to the panelists who'll be speaking. We have Kristen Gates from Conestoga College's School of Trades and Apprenticeship, as well as Leonard Bambaco and Dave Pope, who coordinate the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Programs, or OYAP, for the Waterloo Catholic and Waterloo Region District School Boards. So they're going to provide a short summary of that OYAP program by the end of the event, as that's a great opportunity for young folks to learn and experience what the trades are about. With that in mind, just to get us started here, I'm going to do a quick poll of 2 questions here, just to get a sense of the audience. It helps our panelists kind of know who we're dealing with as well and what you know. So we've got 2 questions for you here. You can answer, the first one is, you think you know what apprenticeship is? Yes, no, or not sure. And number 2, have you heard of the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program before? Yes, no, or not sure. So let's see what people have to say tonight. We've got some folks who know about apprenticeship, not hearing about that for the first time. Okay, about a third of the audience here, or sorry, I should say 2/3, saying that they know, they've heard of apprenticeship, think they know what it is. And with the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, we've got about half who haven't heard of it, another third who have, 10% not sure. The other half are finding their mouse. Just kidding. All right, give you another second or 2 to respond. Great. Okay, that's great. Yeah, that helps us. That helps the panelists kind of know, and folks kind of understand who's in the audience tonight. And you know, in my experience, a lot of young people are interested in apprenticeship when they know what it is, but it's not something that everyone even knows exists. So we'll make sure that for those of you who haven't heard of that before, we fix that. Or I should say, if maybe you've heard of it, but you don't know what it is, we'll fix that tonight for sure. With that in mind, really exciting opportunity for learning tonight. And I'm going to invite to join me here on camera our panelists tonight. So we have joining us Lina Shamoun, who's an owner and hairstylist at Artline Salon, Adam Elliott, an automotive mechanic, Mira Polski, who is a carpenter's apprentice, and Randy Parris, who is a labor relations representative at CLAC. Thanks so much for joining us tonight to each of you. Very excited to have you here and to be learning from you folks tonight. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to ask each of our panelists to share a bit about themselves, who you are, kind of what you do for your current job, just to give a quick overview. After we've gotten that general introduction from folks, we're going to invite each of them to share a little bit more detail about their career path, what they've done, kind of how they got from high school to what they're doing now. So that's going to be the first part of our event here tonight. Again, once that introduction has been done, we've heard from everybody, we're going to open it up to your questions. So keep that in mind as you're listening. If there's something that you're wondering, hey, what does that mean? Or how did you get into that? I want to know more about this. Keep those things in mind. And again, feel free at any point to start typing those into the Q&A. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to ask if Lina would like us to get us started. So Lina, I'll set you up here. Can you introduce yourself by telling us about who you are and what you do in your current job?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure being here this evening. I am a hairstylist. I've been in the industry for 20 years exactly, which is hard to believe that it's been that long. I've had a salon for 15 years. And so pretty much most of my life, I have done hair and I love hair very much. So how it all started for me was in grade 11 at St. Mary's High School in Kitchener. I took an elective class in hairdressing. I thought, you know, I wanted to take a class that wasn't a lot of work, because every time I peeked through the door, everyone was having fun, painting nails, doing hair. I thought, oh, for sure, this wasn't going to be a lot of work for me. I had no idea that it was going to be my career. So after doing the hairdressing program, I then went and did co-op in grade 11, and I loved it. I spent 3 months in a local hair salon. I got to be with the team. I met the clients. I washed hair. I swept floors. I just basically hung out with them for 3 hours a day for 3 months. And I really fell in love with the industry. Following grade 12, I ended up doing a co-op placement, or sorry, not a co-op placement, an apprenticeship program at Diva Hair, which is also a local hair salon, where I trained and I did a lot of competitions. It all started also for me at Skills Ontario competitions, which hopefully some of you know of that program. So I did the skills and I ended up winning the regionals. I won the provincials. I then went on and did the nationals. And so that really sparked my passion when it came to competitive hairdressing. So what then happened to me is once I started my apprenticeship program at Diva Hair, and they had seen that I had competed with Skills Ontario in grade 12, the owner there, Dee, then put me into a lot of competitions. And so I basically competed for 18 years in a row. My very proud moment, I would say probably the highlight of my career, was when I won the World Championships in Korea for progressive cutting. But I had no idea that I would ever make it that far when I was in grade 11, just simply taking a class that I thought wasn't really going to be a lot of work. So I've been through the OYAP program, I've been through the apprenticeship program, I've been through co-op, and now all of my girls that work with me, and any person who wants to be a hairstylist, they go through the same thing. They all are co-op students, then they become apprenticeship students, and then they get their license with me after 2.5 years. So all of our team members are go through the same journey, which has been incredibly exciting. So that's pretty much a little bit about my background in a nutshell. But if there's any questions that you have towards business ownership, the service sector, competing, hairdressing, anything like that, please feel free to ask. I'd love to let you know a little bit more about it. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Lina. Yeah, I'm going to pass it over here next to Adam.
Hey, my name's Adam. I'm currently, as Scott mentioned, a licensed mechanic. Just kind of completed that, and just kind of got back into the shop early this fall. And you know, as Scott was looking for our day-to-day here, I work on cars all day, as you might imagine. As a mechanic, I work for a small garage, and we kind of all do everything, which is being a really great experience for me. It's where I've spent my whole career. You know, we obviously fix, we order parts, we talk to reps selling parts, we talk to customers, we create billing, and it's kind of being a really all-around great experience for me. And it's kind of what my day-to-day looks like here. And yeah, it's just a really good opportunity to learn, and always having an opportunity to grow as well.
Thanks, Adam. Excellent introduction there. Let's hear from Mira. What do you do in your job, Mira?
Yeah, so my name is Mira Polski. I am a carpenter's apprentice. I actually recently got signed on just last April, so I'm kind of at the start of my career. I did graduate from Conestoga's renovation technician program. So that was a 2-year course that I took. It actually exempts me from my first year of schooling. So when I get my school offering, I'll be going back as a second year, which is really exciting. For me, I always knew that I wanted to be a carpenter, actually, which is kind of crazy. So getting right into high school, I was so excited to like get in and start doing shop classes. So I took all the woodworking courses I could. I ended up taking drafting courses. And then that kind of got me networking with my shop teachers. And from there, I got into the specialist high skills major program, which allows you to actually get some of your qualifications and certifications to be on site. So for instance, I got my WMIS and my Working at Heights, which was really a benefit for when I started doing a summer co-op in grade 11, because my employer didn't have to send me to go do all of those. So I could start the very first day on the job site and there was no holdbacks. Working summer co-op was an amazing experience because it actually allowed me to work the full Monday through Friday, like all 8 hours, and really get a taste of what the day in, day out would be of a carpenter. And then going into grade 12, I actually took a dual credit program. So that was offered through my high school with Conestoga College. And so I spent my mornings at the college, and every day, Monday through Friday, we had a different trade that we got to explore. So it's very similar to some of the multi-trade courses that Conestoga offers for their students. So this course allowed me to do masonry, plumbing, welding, carpentry. Like it was just the full package, which was so cool. I still discovered that I loved carpentry, was my favorite. So after graduation, I actually got hired back from the position that I had as a co-op student. So it was really cool. Like I just finished my grade 12 exam, and then the next day I was on site working again. And I worked with them through my college years. And then upon graduation, I decided to switch things up a little bit because that had been a framing company that I was working for. So it's very niche. And it was kind of disappointing getting the build up and then walking away from the house and never getting to see the finished product. So now working for a contractor, I get to be that reoccurring face. I'm there from the minute we start demolition. I come back, we do framing. I get to install windows, doors, do trim work, and then do the final clean when we hand it over to the clients. So it's really cool to kind of be there from the start to finish and meet all the sub trades. Like I still kind of get to experience that dual credit program where I got to meet with all the sub trades. I'm still doing that now. So I really like the variety that I get from my job.
That's awesome. Thanks, Mira. Yeah, I just see your fellow panelists nodding their heads at several things that you said there. So I think you're in good company. And so let's hear next from Randy. And I think people are naturally sort of sharing, not only what they do, but also kind of how they got into that. So Randy, if you want to share that piece at this point, by all means, go ahead. And then Adam, you didn't get a chance to share as much of that yet, so I can circle back to you on that front. Let's hear from you, Randy, about what you do and kind of how you got to that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Randy Parris, and I'm a labor relations rep for CLAC, labor union Canada-wide. We pretty much negotiate collective agreements on behalf of our members, and which determines what they're being paid and the rules by which both the employer and the workers need to follow. We also investigate and mediate any disputes that arise in the workplaces and between our members and the employers. And we ensure that they're treated fairly and with respect. We provide health benefits, training, tuition reimbursements, and advice for our apprentices and our members as well. So that's what I do on the day-to-day in a nutshell. So from my journey, pretty much from high school, when I started high school many years ago, I wanted to become a pediatrician, and but I was great at sports and very outgoing and good with people. So in grade 10, when I had to decide what path to take, my guidance counselor steered me towards being a psychologist. I took courses that, led me to become a psychologist, and eventually went to university and majored in psychology and minored in psychology. So I followed that path, completed my degree. But at the time, if you wanted to have a successful career in psychology, you needed to, further your education and go to graduate school and get your master's or a doctorate or something like that. So at that time, I wasn't willing to go back to school. And so I decided to apply for a job, because 6 months after you complete your university degree, you have to start paying your student loan. So I just applied for any and every job I could. I ended up working as an education assistant at an elementary school in Etobicoke, and it was a temporary part-time position, and so that helped me supplement my income. My contract expired the following summer, and so I still needed to find work in my field. So one of my friends who was working out in Edmonton as an electrician invited me out and said, you should consider starting an apprenticeship. And at the time, I was not very open to starting an apprenticeship, but I really didn't have many options at the time, and I was interested in electricity. So I decided to follow my friend out in Edmonton. Once I got there, I just handed out resumes to different contractors that were in and around the industrial park. And one contractor by the name of Westwood Electric decided to call me back. I went to them, started working. I worked with them for about 3 months. They were building a shop. And while building the shop, they had pretty much all of the trades in there. They had the carpenter who framed the place. The electricians came in, ran their wires. They were very methodical. The drywallers came in, put the drywall on. Plumbing came in. They, did what they had to do. So while this was going on, I got a chance to observe all of the trades. And I talked with everyone. I talked with the carpenter, and he looked at me and he said, you know what, if you're thinking of starting a trade, I wouldn't do carpentry. But he was already far in his career. His body was aching, and he's like, I would do something a little bit different. Carpentry is not for me. And so I talked with the electricians. The electricians were very very engaged in what they were doing. They were younger guys around my age, and they said they loved what they were doing, and that was awesome. That was awesome for me. So I talked with the plumber. The plumber came in. He was trying to get to a pipe at the bottom of the building, and so he was jackhammering the floor. He hit a massive pipe, and it blew a bunch of water and stuff on his face. And he's like, "Oh man, this is crazy." And so as a laborer, I'm like, I don't want to become a plumber. I don't want that stuff spraying in my face. So I decided that day that I would like to be an electrician. So after the 3-month period was up, and we completed the shop, I went to the president of the company and I said, I really would like to start an electrical apprenticeship. I came all the way from Toronto, traveled to Edmonton, and I'd like to start an apprenticeship. And so he asked me, do you have any experience with electrical? I said, no, I've only changed the light bulbs at my mom's house, and that's it. And he's like, well, what we do is oil and gas work, and I can't send you out there with no experience. So he advised me to go to one of the colleges, the trades colleges out there is called NATE, to take a pre-apprenticeship program. So I decided to go that route, take the pre-apprenticeship program, and I came back. It was about 3 months. I came back the day it ended, and the following day I had a job working with Suncor in the oil sands. So that's kind of my journey to starting an apprenticeship. I worked with that employer for about 5 years on and off. And in the meantime, I was going back from Edmonton to Toronto. And I finally made the move back to Toronto in 2016 permanently, where I obtained a job with Samuel Steel. Some of you guys may know Samuel Steel. They have the big red trucks that says your success is our business. So I worked with them as a maintenance electrician and millwright. And I did that for 3 years. It was shift work. It was grueling, but it was very, very rewarding work. I learned a lot. But it was time for me to start a family, and I wanted something more stable, stable hours. So I decided to pursue a career in labor relations with CLAC, and that's where I am now. So a little bit long, but that's my journey to from high school to where I am now. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, lots of great lessons in there, I think, that we'll probably talk more about over the course of the day. Yeah, and now the suspense has been built up to hear more about Adam's career story. So let's pass it back to Adam. And then again, for folks who are listening, I'd love to hear your questions. Feel free to start typing those into the Q&A here in Zoom, and we'll bring those to the group here shortly. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I actually kind of followed a similar story here to Randy, whereas in high school, I was pretty set on going to university. Took a couple shop classes in high school. You know, auto was always a fun class for me. It was a lot of my friends were in there, right? Trying to follow that path. And unfortunately, I couldn't really fit it in with going to university. So I kind of let it go on the wayside, never really thinking about going back to it. And then I got to university, and a year and a half into university, I realized I didn't really care that much about trees, and I didn't want to spend another 2.5 years learning about forests, which is what my major was in. And I said, okay, maybe time for a break. You know, let's reset, come back with a new lens to university. And well, my 8-month break, where I was supposed to go back and retake the courses I didn't do too well in the fall, well, it's turned into almost a 5-year break, and a completed apprenticeship later. It was a really not a great time starting my apprenticeship, honestly. It was difficult. I had come off of a big failure, right? I kind of always thought I was going to get that degree, and that was my life, right? Go to college, get a job, get married, start a family. That's the American dream, so to speak, right? And I didn't really know what I was doing. I was changing oil, changing tires, right? Just kind of being the laborer in the shop. And 6 months later, my boss came up to me and said, hey, like, if you're not going back to university, we got to get you into an apprenticeship. Like, let's get the ball rolling here. And I did. And, you know, a year later, I was at Conestoga for my first year, and I learned a ton in that first year. And then came back, and all of a sudden I was doing more things in the shop, right? And every time you go to school, you kind of get to do more in the shop, right? And the more you learn, the more you got to do. And that was just so rewarding for me as someone who kind of has always prided myself on trying to be a lifelong learner. Having that little bit every week really was a rewarding experience for me. The other thing I've loved about my journey so far is it's giving me time to do other things. I found with the university, it was very much, you're here for 4 years, you're going to come, you know, September to April. You're going to spend 8 months, and then you're going to have 4 months off. You're going to do something in your field, and you're going to come back and do it again and do it again and do it again until you get a degree. And in automotive, that's really not the case. You know, if you wanted to, you could switch shops. I was very fortunate, never had to do that. But in that time, you know, I believe it was last year, maybe even the year before, I became a first aid instructor as well. Something I had the time to do because I wasn't adhering to the strict schedule of university. This past summer, I spent in Kenora doing wildland fire. Again, it was kind of one of those things that I had the money because I'd been working so much that I could kind of take the risk at maybe a lower paying job than what I was used to. And that just kind of built this sense of completion, finishing a apprenticeship and getting to experience different jobs along the way. Really kind of built me as a more well-rounded employee and as a more well-rounded person. And today I stand just recently completed apprenticeship, you know, wrote my CFQ, which is a certificate of qualification, sorry. And I'm now a licensed mechanic, and I got a long career of learning and a long career of work. And I'm honestly, I've never been more excited, which is weird. I never thought I'd be someone who would be excited for work, but yeah, finishing school is just the start of my learning, which is really where I never thought I'd get to that point, but here we are. And it's really, really exciting at this point.
Awesome. I feel like we should give a round of applause for that. That's like, congratulations. Yeah, you worked hard to get to this point. So good on you. I think this is a great segue into a question here that I see. I'm wondering what people enjoy most about their job. Folks have touched on a few things that they find rewarding in their positions, but I'd like to throw that question out to the group, and perhaps I'll put us back in the gallery view here so that we can see everybody. And again, there's more questions coming here from the Q&A, and we'll try to work our way through those. So keep those coming. But I'll start with this question here. What was my question here? What do you enjoy most about your work? Pass it to anybody who would like to jump in.
I can go ahead. My job as a labor relations rep is rewarding, and it's rewarding because I get to help people. There are all sorts of things, all sorts of issues that come up. It's not so much the day-to-day of negotiating contracts and helping to decide what people are going to make for their salary and the benefits that they offer, but it's also walking alongside someone if they're having a difficult time with things outside of work, right? So if someone's having, their loved one passed away or something of the sort, I'm able to walk alongside that person, offer them support, and just be there for them when in a difficult time. And I find that is probably the most rewarding part of my job, because the day-to-day stuff will always be there, but the impact that you have on someone when they're in a difficult place or a time of need, that has a lasting effect, and that builds friendship, builds communities, and it makes a difference in our world. So that is most rewarding for me, and that's what I love about my job.
I'd love to piggyback on that, if that's all right. If you are a people person, the service industry is extremely rewarding as well, kind of sort of similar to what Randy's saying. I think Randy's working with the worker side of things, and what we do is we work with the clients, end of things, and of course my team as well is part of that. But if you love servicing people, if you love meeting people, if you love just being out there as a person, I find that extremely rewarding, because, I always ask myself, am I a people person because I do hair, or do I do hair because I'm a people person? So I'm not quite sure exactly, which one came first, the chicken or the egg for me. But the one thing that I love about what I do is every day is new, even though the services that we do, we've done before, but the people that sit in our chairs, they're not the same people that were there yesterday. So what I find rewarding, to be honest with you, is the conversations that I get to have with people. And they help me forget about, you know, if I've had a bad day or a bad morning, or if I'm dealing with something, as soon as my clients sit in the chair, I get to connect with another human being, and we get to talk about, you know, whether they're going on a trip or what their Christmas plans are, or if they've got a new puppy or, you know, a new grandkid or whatever. So I find that I know a little bit about a lot of things, which is really interesting. And if I want to learn more about whatever it is I learned that day, then I can Google it. I can go talk to someone about it. But it's so fantastic to be able to just have these conversations that I normally don't know if I would have them if I had another job. And the other thing is, I just wanted to bring up a really cool point. Just like Randy was saying, like he talked to a plumber and an electrician and, you know, all these tradespeople, and that helped him pick his career. I encourage anyone that's listening to this conversation, if there is something that you're interested in and you're not sure if you're going to like it or not, don't just sort of be with that thought in your own head. Actually, like, go and talk to somebody who's in that trade or in that business, and just talk to them and be like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about what you do, why you do it? Do you like it? Don't you like it? Like if you talk to any one of us, me, Adam, or anyone here, we'll be honest with you and say, these are the things we love about what we do. These are the things we don't love about what we do. And then it's up to you to ultimately make a decision. But I too, you know, talked to people before I became a hairdresser, and they really helped me to get to where I am today. So biggest advice here is just don't just Google it, because Google's not really, it's not a person that's going to give you everything you need to know. So like, go and talk to people. If you want to be in the industry that I'm in, call me. There's 4 of us here that are in completely different, you know, industries, and the trades is really cool, guys. It's a very cool world to be in. So if there's anything you want to know about any of it, don't hesitate to reach out to us. But I just wanted to bring that up because I find networking can really shape your future. So don't be afraid to speak up. Thank you.
I gotta say, my favorite thing about work is the hands-on experience. Like that's one of the reasons why I didn't go to university, because I hated sitting in school. Like I wanted to build stuff. And I remember being in high school and everyone saying, when I mentioned that maybe I want to own my own business one day and be a contractor, they're like, oh, so you're going to go to university and do business, or you're going to be in architecture, you're going to be engineering. I was like, no, I want to actually build it. So I love when you're coming onto a job site and there's nothing there except this foundation and your plans, and you're bringing to life somebody's vision. Like at the end of the day, you've stood up all these walls, suddenly you have a roof, and the homeowners are so happy, and you're like, I built that. Like that's the coolest thing. My friends hate driving around with me because I'm like, I did that house and I did that house, and like seeing that actual manifestation of somebody's ideas is just, I think it's the coolest thing that we can build these buildings.
Yeah, I really do agree with that point of the finished product, right? I was once told universities for people who are okay with never having the answer and just always looking for the next piece of the puzzle. That's not me. As a mechanic, I get to go home with, I finished 10 jobs today, and I got 10 wings today. A couple losses for sure, but I got 10 wings, and that's for someone like me, it's a great feeling at the end of the day, right? It's you did something at the end of the day, not well, in 5 years, I got a quarter of the puzzle done, which is can be a little tougher for myself anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's lots of great questions coming in here to the Q&A, so I'm gonna ask a few more of those. Someone's asked here, do you feel you have financial freedom because you learned a trade? I'd like to comment on that.
I can go if that's okay. So I talked a little bit about my story and going to university. When I did, I racked up quite a bit of debt, you know, by taking out student loans to pay for school. And I would say when I was finished my 4 years, I was probably about $30,000 in debt. just from tuition and so on. My first year as an apprentice, I was able to pay off that debt and start with a clean slate. So working as an apprentice, I made enough money not only to pay off that debt, but to start over and buy a car and work towards like a down payment for a home. So it is the trades. There are so many opportunities, and financially, you will, if you stick to it and you dedicate yourself to it, you can make as much money as a doctor or a lawyer in the trades. And so I encourage you to, if you're looking to get into the trades, don't think about the money at first. Think about learning the trade and applying yourself to the theory and what you're learning on site, and eventually the money will come. But there is financial freedom in the trades.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I mean, I'm still, well, I like to say I'm still young. I'm 24 now, and a lot of my buddies went to university. And like Randy said, they came out with a lot of debt, and I'm sitting here in a house. Well, the bank owns my house still, but you know, I'm paying a mortgage and all my buddies are paying rent, right? And it's, I can only do that because I've been working for the last almost 5 years. So they've been all racking up that debt, right? So we'll see in the end who does better. But young in my life, I was able to get some financial freedom pretty quick, which was a really nice feeling. So definitely financial freedom's achievable.
I'd love to add to that. Oh, sorry, if you want to go ahead.
I was just going to say, now's a really great time to get into the trades. Like, there's so many opportunities for scholarships if you go to college. Adam and I were actually in the same scholarship team at Conestoga, the Weston families. So that was phenomenal. Like, not only did they give you money to help pay for your tuition and buy tools, but it was also came along with opportunities to network, which is how both of us got here for this talk show. And same with apprenticeships. Like, there are so many grants out there for apprentices, especially women looking to go into skilled trades. There's a lot of great avenues to explore that way. So yeah, there's definitely great financial benefits that come with the skilled trades for sure.
So being in the service industry, I'm sure some of you have gone to restaurants, gotten your haircuts, where you tip your service provider. So one really wonderful thing about our industry is in Canada, we still get tipped after people get their haircuts. So I've noticed that, and my biggest advice for any hairdresser that works with me is if you claim your income and your tips, you'd be surprised how much money you make at the end of the year. And just like what we're talking about, you're able to take that and say to the bank, hey, this is how much money I make. Can I have a mortgage? Can I have a lease for a vehicle? Can I have, you know, the credit that you need to be able to sort of have things that you want? So absolutely, being a hairstylist, I get to choose how many haircuts I do or how many colors I do a day. People then pay me and then they tip over top of that, which is amazing. It's such an honor to, you know, to be in a position where, you know, people want to come see you and they feel good about their services. But, you know, if you're going to get into the service industry, my biggest advice for you is make sure that you claim every dollar that you make. Yes, you'll pay taxes on that, but guess what? You will have a really awesome, you know, end of the year income statement that you can go and get a mortgage, exactly like Adam was saying. And because it's really important, you know, I know some of you are young and you're not thinking about that, but just keep in mind that you can make really awesome money, and ultimately it's really up to you. So what's really cool about the programs we're talking to you, the apprenticeship programs, once you get licensed as a technician, the only person you have to count on is you. So if you can show up every day, you can be on time, and you like working with your hands in whatever trade you've chosen to work with, the only person you have to count on is you. Now, hopefully you get a really good mentor, which is very cool actually, because apprenticeship links you with a mentor that then trains you. So in the beginning, it's their job to make sure that you become a good technician. But then towards the end of that apprenticeship, it's up to you. So I always have one quote that I love to go by, and it's the quote is, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So if any one of us here decides not to just show up tomorrow to work, the only person we can blame is ourselves. But I know that if any one of us shows up tomorrow and they have a great day, then that's because we made that happen. For me, of course, I need my clients, but if I don't show up for them, then I failed them. So there is amazing financial freedom in being, you know, in the trades. You just have to count on yourself and you got to show up. So it's really simple, but you have to love what you do. I think that's really kind of what I'm hearing everyone here say. Find your passion and the money will come. I promise you, the money will come in such a way that you're like, man, like I didn't know I was going to be this lucky in life, all because you love what you do. Because the money is always going to come after that if you love what you do, for sure.
It's like 4 or 5 threads I want to pull from the things you folks just said, but maybe a natural one next might be to talk a bit more about apprenticeship. So we brought that up at the beginning with the poll. Someone's asked, will we do college work and apprenticeship in parallel? And if yes, how will a student's day be? So maybe what I'll suggest from you folks is, could you tell us a little bit about, for those of you who did an apprenticeship, you know, what did that look like? Kind of how, you touched on this a little bit in some cases, but, you know, how did you get started? What did that look like? And for those of you who did some other post-secondary or perhaps were in college, like how is your learning experience different than when other things you may have done, like a university degree, for example? And maybe you can use that to sort of help folks understand how is that learning model different than a university model, for example. It's a bit of a muddled question, but hopefully you guys can take that somewhere.
Well, I touched on it earlier there. In university, you go, at the very least, you're going 4 months at a time, right? Kind of the standard is kind of similar to high school, right? We go 8 months at a time, 4 months off in the summer. In an apprenticeship style, it's typically it's supposed to be about 3 years. It usually takes a little longer just because of backlogs with the college and you miss the time. But there's kind of 2 big ways you can do an apprenticeship. You can do block style education, where you take 2 months out of the year, do all of your school in one go, and then go back to work, which is how I did it all the way through my apprenticeship. Or you can do what's called day release, where you go 1 day a week. And that, I believe it's typically an 8-month program, depending on the trade, of course, right? Some take longer than others. But you're only there once a week. So you kind of get to apply it immediately to the job site, which is way better than university, where you spend 4 years before you get to apply a lot of what you're learning. And even in the block, how I did it, 2 months, you still remember it the first day back in the shop. It's like, oh, that thing I did 2 months ago, it's right there, right? Not something you learned about 4 years ago. Also, to tie it into financial freedom, during my block, I got EI the whole time. So I got paid half of what I got when I was working during my education. And that scholarship and the grants, I almost made more money while I was in school than when I'm working, between EI and all the grants you get. So it's really quick and not a lot of education really in the classroom, which is nice for people who can't sit still. I think, yeah, total I spent 6 months in the classroom, and then you need to bank your hours, right? So for mechanics, I believe it's sitting at 6,500 hours right now, which sounds like a lot, but it's only about 3 years of working full time. So you'd spend 3 years in the shop, 6 months in the classroom, and then you go and write a test and you become licensed. So really quick and really hands-on, because even in school, half the time I was working in a shop, you know, taking apart engines, taking apart transmissions, this, that, and the next thing, to really help learn how these things work, which was really cool.
Just make 2 things explicit there from what Adam said. While you're working, as an apprentice, you're getting paid, right? And then EI, for those who maybe aren't familiar, employment insurance. So essentially, the government, as a safety net for people who are not employed, they'll be paying you a certain proportion of your wage. In case people aren't familiar with the acronym there. So, others want to add to Adam's thoughts?
So I haven't actually been able to go back to school since starting as an apprentice. I've just been working out my hours. But that being said, like I have job security. Like I'm not going to university and then having to look for a job after that. I already have my job and I'm going to stay with this company and have that all the way through my apprenticeship and even after. So it's really nice. Like it doesn't matter if I go to my, like to do my second year of schooling, that 2-month period right now, or if I do in 6 months, like I'm already working the job that I want to work and I'm just going to learn at whatever pace works best for me and whenever I happen to be able to go back to school. So there's like no real time crunch. Like with school, you usually get an email offering you your position to go back. They'll say like usually it's in the winter time or the fall, just because that seems to be like the slower times in the trades. So I got my offer and I'm actually on the wait list to go after Christmas. So hopefully I get to go. But if I don't, it's not the end of the world. Like I just show up back to work on Monday and I keep learning on the job. So it's really nice having that security that you have a job and you can keep learning while there.
I can add a little bit to that. So if anyone here is looking to get into the hairdressing, very similar to what Adam was saying, actually. So it's 3,200 hours. You can start your 3,200 hours right after high school if you find the salon that'll take you on as an apprentice. So you don't actually have to go to hair school if you don't want to. If you take hair program in high school and you know you really want to be a hairstylist, then the salons out in the region, the ones that take apprentices, we'll take you on. We sign you on right away with the Ministry of Trades. And then you can start your 3,200 hours of hairdressing apprenticeship right away. And you get paid as you learn at the same time. And then at the end of it, then the owners will sign the book for you that makes sure that you know everything in that book, because there's a log that we have to, keep track of everything that you've learned. And then you go and write your exam. And during that journey of the 2.5 years, there's a little bit of schooling to do, but we'll let you know what that is. And it's usually just a couple of months of it. So there's that one way to do it. The other way to do it is to actually go to a private, like take an actual hairdressing program for 10 months. And then after that 10 month, you then get signed on as an apprentice. But your 3,200 hours start counting right from day one when you start school. So you don't actually waste your hours, even if you're going to school. And then again, that usually takes about 2.5 years and you get your license as long as you pass your exam. And as long as the person who's training you teaches you everything you need to know, that is part of that log, the logbook. So yeah, the cool thing about doing apprenticeship is you learn and get paid at the same time, which is amazing. Now I went that way. I basically started my hair program as an apprentice right after high school. I never went to hair school because I learned hair as I was doing my apprenticeship program. So because I really, just like some of us here, like I really didn't love going to school. Plus I didn't really speak any English when I first came to Canada. So I started hairdressing after 4 years of coming to Canada, and I didn't speak any English. So I was better watching and learning than listening and, doing, exams and stuff like that. So I'm a hands-on learner. I see something being done. I try it for myself and I learn. And I think most of us here I think we're visual learners. And I think that's why we're pretty much, where we are today and doing very well, because we see something being done, we're shown it, we're then explained. That someone will say to me, hey, you did this, wrong. Can you tweak that? Can you do it this way? And then someone will show me with their hands what they're doing and stuff. So, sorry, I'm a little bit off track. I mumble and go off to different thoughts, but what was the question again? Oh, the schooling. Yeah. So you're good. If you want to do the industry and you don't want to go to school, you'll be fine. You'll do very well.
That's great, Lina. Randy, did you want to add to that?
I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, I think everyone covered basically how an apprenticeship works. The only thing I would add is if you are doing your apprenticeship and you're in school and you're going from school back to your work, keep a track of what you're doing. Whether it's your first term or your second term, whatever term of apprentice you are, make notes of what you're doing, because you may not go back to the same employer after school. And if you are looking after school for a new employer, they may ask you, what have you done thus far? And so you need to be able to speak to that and explain what you did at your last job. So as you progress from your first year to your second year and so on and so forth, keep a track, a little notepad if you have it. Just write down the things that you work on. As an electrician apprentice, that's what I did. If I worked on motors or I worked on sensors or whatever, I made a note of that, so that after school, if my employer that I was with wasn't busy and I had to find a new employment, I was able to explain to the new employer, this is what I did. And it makes you a little bit more employable because you know what you're talking about. They see that you have done these things, and then they will, definitely hire you. So that's my only tip while you're in school and moving through your apprenticeship, to keep a note of that stuff.
That's great. What kind of final advice might folks have in a minute or a minute and a half to share that you haven't shared yet? And sometimes I like to ask this question, like, what advice would you give to your grade 9 self, for example? But it doesn't have to be that per se. If that helps you narrow it, then you can use that prompt. But looking for sort of final career advice from any of the panelists here, and then we're going to hear from the OYAC coordinators to give folks listening a little bit of one example of something you could do with the information that you hear here in terms of having some experience and seeing if the trades are right for you, or helping you better prepare for the trades. So again, to the group here, final advice for your grade 9 self or anyone listening.
I would say maybe not specifically to the trades, but definitely it's easier to see in the trades in high school is every day now is a job interview. Your teachers work with industry professionals at some point, right? You need to, in the automotive, to be an automotive teacher in high school, you need to work 7 years in the industry, kind of as a standard before you get a job. In 7 years, if you're working at, you could work at 4 different dealers. Your shop teachers know maybe upwards of 100 mechanics in 30 different garages now, right? That shop teacher can get you a job. So every day you show up to class, make sure you're coming prepared, and make sure you're putting your best foot forward, because they can get you a job, and they can also stop you from getting a job if you're not being on the ball, right? Hopefully we don't have any teachers like that on the board, but you never know, right? And even things like today when you're in person, right? Obviously this is a Zoom one, so we don't know if you're on your phone right now, but if you come to one of these in person, make sure you're paying attention, and make sure you're putting your best foot forward everywhere you go, because there's always someone in your industry watching once you start learning. So stay on the ball.
Just a few things, nothing too crazy, but main things is don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the first thing. There's no such thing as a silly question, especially in the trades. Some trades they're great to learn, but they're also dangerous. So ask questions as an apprentice, because that's when you're doing the most learning. Also take initiative, find out what you're working on the next day even, and perhaps gather those tools and materials or research it, and so that your supervisor sees that you have an interest in what you're going to be working on, and that in return shows them that this person is really interested, they want to learn, and they will then invest time into you, right? And when they see that you're putting in that initiative. Again, I can't stress this enough, take daily notes or weekly notes on what you're working on, and find someone that you connect with in the workplace, as for a mentor, and just pick their brain, ask them questions, follow them around, ask them why they're doing that, and, you know, ask them for advice and things you're doing right, things you're doing wrong. That's very important to have someone to connect with in your workplace, to help you learn and guide you through your path. So that's my advice, and I hope it helps you when you do decide to choose your trade. Thanks.
I'd say patience. Like, everyone right now is asking what you want to do the minute you're graduating from high school, what you're going to do. And you're so young. Like, it's okay to take time to change your mind, figure out what you actually want to do. And once you do figure that out, be patient with yourself in learning. Like, these are skilled trades. They take time to become skilled. Like, I started this career 5 years ago. I'm 21 now, and I'm starting to run some of my own jobs at work, but like, I didn't start there. Like, I'm a 5'2" tiny woman in construction and carpentry. Like, Randy, you mentioned earlier how that carpenter is saying it's a physical job. It is. It's so tough sometimes. We're hauling lumber, we're moving trusses. Like, I had to get strong and figure out how to move with my little tiny frame. And sometimes I need more ladders, or we need to figure something out so that I can actually do my job. So be patient with yourself and where you are, wherever that is in the progress. If you know what skilled trade you want to go to, if you know you want to go to university, but like, allow yourself the time to figure it out and to actually learn. Because I think if you get so rushed in your end goal, you'll miss the most important part, which is the actual learning to become what you want to.
So I have a couple of them. So one of them is, if you ever see anyone on the podium, don't ever wonder how they got there. Just go directly up to them as soon as they've received their medal. This is just a figure of speech, and ask them how they got there. So if you see anyone in a position that you want to be in, don't be like, oh, I wonder, you know, just be like, hey man, how did you do what you do? And why are you here? And how did you end up, like, what led you to this? So basically just open your mouth and ask all kinds of questions. That's the first one. The second one, this is for the older kids that are ready to get out there. Your social media is your resume. So my biggest advice for you, if you think that employers don't look at your social media and look at your name and figure out who you are, like, outside of your resume, I don't know. I would be lying if I said we don't do that. So all of us look up your name. Unfortunately, the things that I've done on social media is all out there. So I always have to be very careful what I post, how I post, my language and everything, because we live in a world where, like, the computers are literally under our fingertips. So just remember to have, like, an image that is representing of who you are. Because if you're going to be in the service industry, and if you're going to be basically in any trade, in my opinion, I think that who you are on social media is basically another extension of who you are as a person. So just be aware of that, you know, post things that you think are authentic to you. And that's your resume now, guys. It's not really anymore like a piece of paper or, you know, a reference letter or any of that, because that's the world we live in. So just be careful of what you post, how you post, the image that you portray out there, because it's really, really important that, you know, you are the same person no matter where you go. But those are the two things: ask questions and just sort of take care of who you are today, because it's going to be somewhere. You never know who you meet in the future that's going to be like, hey, you know, I saw this post about you. I saw, you know, this thing, you were here and that was cool. And or the opposite too. So anyway, those are just the two things I have. So I hope you enjoyed your session with us tonight.
Thanks, Lina. Yeah, so much great advice there. You know, trying things, learning from your experiences, understanding that it's a process. You have to go through that process. You know, you can't get an answer until you've done the work of gathering information. And the best way to do that is talk to people, have experiences, reflect on what you learned from those, and then be mindful of what you're doing to create those opportunities for yourself. Like that's how using that, your networks, like your shop teachers, being mindful of social media so that you're not closing off opportunities that could be available to you, and that you're opening up new ones, right? So it's a very good segue here to hear for a couple of minutes from our local OYAP coordinators. As I mentioned, we have Dave Pope and Lenny Mbako here. Tell us a little bit about the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program and how students could access that if they want to explore trades and perhaps use it as a way to jumpstart their career in the trades.
For sure. Wow, full hour with the dream panel here. This is fantastic. Adam, what a wonderful story of your journey. And where it ended up with you at a university. Randy, your story where an option to a skilled trade brought you into an alternative occupation that you're well prepared for. Mira, fantastic conversation about high school. Your friends went off to university and you've taken that path and you're blazing a great trail. And Lina, well, Lina, what can I say, Lina? Immigrant from a new country into a new country, and you did a great job too. So the dream team, I don't know where we fit in here, Dave, but thank you so much for being part of it. I know we're tying up loose ends here and we're getting near the end right now, but OYAP is an option, and everything. I'm not going to reiterate everything we said because basically it's all been put out there. But you can start your connection to an employer in high school. You can get 2 high school credits with it. It's called co-op, and you can start in the summer of after grade 10. OYAP is basically just the skilled trades, co-op in the skilled trades. I know I see a lot of conversations in the chat here, and the answer really is go to your guidance counselor, go to your guidance counselor, go to your guidance counselor. They know our programs. If you're in a Waterloo Public School Board, they have their own kind of branded programming. Waterloo Catholic, we have ours. So the websites will be shared with you to go there, but your guidance counselors know what we offer. And you can explore the trade. As I say, it should be your first career choice. You can do it while in parallel of going to college or university, but it pays the bills. It does all of that. You earn while you learn. It's you can try it all out, and finding that it's not right for you is just as important as finding out that it's right for you. But make those connections with your tech teachers. Go to grade 9 and grade 10. Talk. They know a lot of people out there. Take your 9 and 10 courses, and if you want a completely, fully immersive experience, co-op is your answer. And that takes a lot of heavy lifting off you. Finding an employer is not an easy thing, especially in the trades, and at a young age. So Mira, we hopefully things worked out well. There was a good connection with you in high school, and you got some contacts, and that's what we want. At the very least, you get a part-time job and you work your way out. But yes, you could be signed on as an apprentice before you graduate high school. You can practice the skill trades all the way through and then earn high school credits at the same time. So thank you for the invitation, Scott. Thank you for the wonderful stories I've heard. And like I said, if there's any questions you need, put them in the chat. Go see your guidance counselor. If you don't know who your guidance counselor is, please check them out, and they will let you know when co-op starts and how you can be immersed in it. Dave?
Yeah, and I'll just add on that, so Lenny mentioned it, but co-op is probably one of the most important courses you can ever take. I always say because you can try a career before you buy a career. So a couple people mentioned it here is maybe they tried a different path and then they realized they didn't like it. If you can try it while you're in high school before you graduate, you can save a lot of time and money because you actually got to try it. So maybe you thought you wanted to do something, but you never actually tried it. So why go to college, university, or even a skilled trade if you haven't actually tried it yet? So take co-op, try it with a local employer, see if it's something you actually really want to do. And again, with OYAP and co-op, you can actually get signed and start your apprenticeship in high school. The other thing I'd mention is both of our school boards, so Waterloo Catholic and Waterloo Public, is we have lots of great resources available to students to search careers and find out more about many different careers. So we both have something called Edge Factor. So it's edgefactor.com, where students can log in and it's like Netflix for career videos. So you can search through over 3,000 videos where they've interviewed people in many different jobs, not just skilled trades. And they talk about how they got there, their journey, what they like, what they don't like, what their day looks like. And then there's also My Blueprint. So both boards use My Blueprint as well. And there's lots of tests and things that, or questionnaires that you can go through to kind of help you figure out what sort of job you want to do. The other thing I always say to my students is never turn down an opportunity to learn something new. So you kind of heard that here as well, is people tried stuff and then found out that that's maybe something they really liked. So you never know where it's going to lead you, just to try it or learn something, try something, see where it leads you, and it might turn out to be the thing that you really like.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Dave. I think I couldn't sum it up any better than that. Yeah, it should be your first career consideration as you work down your career journey pathway. So thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. I got a few parting words here for folks. Obviously very inspiring, informing hour here. I've mentioned a few times, encourage people to reflect on their experience as a way to think, so what? Like, what you've learned all this information, you've heard all this. What does it mean? What are you going to do with it? So you're going to receive, when you sign off your Zoom, you'll be able to see the link, but also by email by tomorrow, you'll get a link to a feedback form. It's also kind of doubles as a reflection. So we encourage you to fill that out. It does two things. Tells us what you learned and how we can make these events better, but also gives you an opportunity to reflect on your learning and what you might do with what you heard tonight. So we encourage you to fill that out. If you are an SHSM student in the Waterloo Region District School Board, filling out the survey is a requirement to get a reach ahead experience. So if that's how you heard about this event, be sure to fill that out so we can send that to your school board and let them know that you've completed that experience. As Dave said, never turn away an opportunity to have an experience. I'm going to make a shameless plug here for another BEP program, which is called the Youth Creativity Fund, through which you can access a micro grant of up to $1,000 to experiment with a creative solution to a problem that you see in your community. So if you are someone who has some interesting idea that you want to experiment with and you want to run with it, you need a little bit of money to make that happen. You can make your own experience, and we can help you do that with some funds. So we'll send a link to more information about that program as well, if you haven't heard of it yet. And finally, if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to register for our next month's session, which would be January 18th, where we'll be hearing from folks who work around the theme of healthy minds and bodies. So if that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, then we'd encourage you to join us that night as well. And we'll send out the link to that as well, so you know where to find it. I want to say thank you to all of our panelists for joining us here tonight, and for everyone attending. Wish you a great rest of your night, and good luck. Bye for now.